Hare Krishna. Welcome to the summary of chapter 4, which we covered last Sunday in our Bhagavad Gita class at Slough Hindu Temple. Before we move on, let's try and understand the link between the chapter 3 and chapter 4. In chapter 3, Krishna towards the end is speaking about lust. Krishna said that this lust is covering the knowledge. And along with that, Krishna spoke about one should do Nishkam Karam Yoga. One should do their duty without getting attached to the results. And when someone does that, he becomes eligible to receive the Transcendental Knowledge. If someone gains Transcendental Knowledge, what happens? Number one, they move from Sakam Karam Yoga to Nishkam Karam Yoga. Sakam Karma Yoga, as you all remember, is the person who attached to the results and to the work itself. And Nishkam Karma Yoga is the person who is detached from the results of the work. And number two, anyone who receives this transcendental knowledge, the intelligence becomes so much sharpened that such a person with such deliberate spiritual intelligence, he can conquer over the lust. Very, very important point. And with that transcendental knowledge, a person can move from a mode of passion to the mode of goodness. And in chapter 3, shloka number 30, Krishna said, by surrendering all your works onto me with full knowledge of me, by listening to this, Arjuna must have a question. With full knowledge of me? Who will give me this knowledge? Krishna is now saying, I will give you this transcendental knowledge. And I'll tell you how this transcendental knowledge is received with proper channel. So this chapter is titled as Transcendental Knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is known as Stuti. That is what is heard. In the olden age, people hear this knowledge, remember it, and just pass it on without any adulteration. This chapter, it is the knowledge which outlines how we can establish with the divine connection with God. And it's aimed to see God through the ears rather than the eyes. And that is our acronym for this chapter, ears. Eternal education, accurate understanding, removing reactions, sacrifices, yagnas. Eternal education. In this section, Krishna is talking about the parampara in which the knowledge is given. Krishna said he gave the knowledge to son god Vivaswan. Vivaswan gave this to his father. Give this to the father of mankind, Manu. And Manu, in turns, give this to Ishwaku. And now that this knowledge is lost, I'm giving this to you again. What is the qualification to receive this Bhagavad Gita? Hare Krishna said, Bhakto si me sakha cheti. Krishna said, you are my friend and you are my devotee. So you are qualified to receive this transcendental knowledge. After hearing this, Arjuna has had a question. You said you gave this knowledge to Vivaswan? But he appeared millions of years ago and you are my contemporary. How is this possible? Krishna answered this question in the subsequent shlokas. Krishna said, we both have taken many, many births together. You don't remember, but I remember all of that. And in the next shloka, Krishna mentioned why he appears. Shloka number 7 and 8 are very, very important. You may have already heard this. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhityathanam adharmasya tadatnanam sujanyuham. Whenever there is a decline in religion and predominance of irreligion, that time Krishna appears. Why he appears? Krishna gives three reasons. Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect his devotees. Vinashaya chiduskritam, to annihilate the miscreants. Dharma sansthapanadhaya, to establish the dharma. Sambhavami yuge yuge, he appears millennium after millennium for this purpose. So in this way, this section Krishna talks about himself. This section is about the accurate understanding, and Krishna clears up three common misunderstandings. Verse 11. Here Krishna states that he reciprocates with everyone as they surrender unto him. For those who deny the existence of God, he meets them in the form of karma. He sits inside their hearts, notes their actions, and dispenses the result. But such atheists too cannot get away from serving him. They are obliged to serve God's material energy, Maya, in its various spirits such as wealth, luxuries, relatives, prestige, etc. Maya holds them under the sway of anger, lust, and greed. And on the other hand, for those who turn their mind away from worldly attraction and look upon God as the goal and refuge, he takes care of them just as a mother takes care of a child. Verse 12. Person who seek worldly gain worship the celestial gods and seek boons from them. The boon the celestial gods bestow are material and temporary, and they are given only by the virtue of the power they are acquired from the Supreme Lord. The celestial god give boons only by the powers bestowed upon to them by the Supreme Lord. People with small understanding approach the demigods, but those who are intelligent realize that there is no point in going to the intermediary, and they approach the Supreme Lord for fulfillment of their aspirations. People are of various kinds, possessing higher and lower aspirations. Sri Krishna now mentions these four categories in the verses 13. Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam. The four Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. So if someone just follows the duties of those particular Varnas, then the person will get purified. After this, Krishna is telling, see, I've created this system, but then all this work doesn't affect me. Even if I do the work, no, it doesn't affect me. So in this way, we get the accurate understanding in this section. Removing reactions. In this section, Krishna is talking about karma, the intricacies of karma. Understanding karma on the platform of jnana. Initial shloka, Krishna explains how difficult it is to understand the intricacies of karma. He speaks about action, inaction, forbidden action. After speaking about all this, he's talking about the symptoms of a detached worker. How can we understand that this person is working without getting attached to the results? That is basically he's a Nishkam Karam Yogi. How will we understand this? Krishna provides loads of wonderful qualities. For example, such a person is satisfied and independent. He performs no fruitive actions. He gives up all sense of proprietorship. He's perfectly sense control, level of mind, level of intelligence. He's free from duality. He does not envy. And such a person who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. That person attains perfection. And that's what explained in this whole section by Krishna. At the end, Krishna introduces a term called yagna. After hearing this, Arjuna must have a question. Can you tell me more about the yagna? And the next section is all about yagna, sacrifices or yagna. Shloka number 25 to 29, Krishna mentions different types of sacrifices. Dravya yagna, sacrificing the possessions. Tapo yagna, severe austerity. Yog yagna, practicing eightfold mysticism. And Swadhyaya Jnana yagna, which is basically studying the Vedas. So after this, Krishna is speaking about the purpose of sacrifice, the development of jnana, i.e. the development of this knowledge from these sacrifices. After this, Krishna explains the destruction of sins. When someone performs these sacrifices, their sins will get destroyed, and then this person attains spiritual realm. So in this way, Krishna covers the purpose of sacrifice, which is to attain the knowledge. This is very clear. Is there any easy way to attain jnana? And this is covered in our shloka of the week, shloka number 34. Very, very important shloka for all the sadhakas. Tattviti pranipatena pariprakshena sevaya updekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. If you want to attain this knowledge quickly, better go and approach Tattvadarshi, one who is enlightened and self-realized. How to approach? Approach with full surrender, render service, seva, and then acquire from him very, very submissively. So this is the best way, Arjuna. After attaining the jnana, knowledge, he talks about the glories of transcendental knowledge. What happens with the person when they get the transcendental knowledge? What is the result? Just to name a few. Even if a person is sinful of all the sinners, that person will be able to cross the oceans of the miseries. Then by just getting this transcendental knowledge, all the reaction burnt into ashes. There is nothing so sublime and pure as this transcendental knowledge. And who can acquire this transcendental knowledge? Shraddhavan labte jnanam. The one who has faith, that can attain transcendental knowledge. What about those who doesn't have faith? What will happen to them? Vinashyanti. They will just fall. Such a person will never get happiness, nor in this world or next. Finally, Krishna said, anyone who acts in devotional service, renounces the fruit of his action, all his doubts are destroyed. He is situated in himself, he becomes self-realized, and such a person is not bound by the reaction of any work. So after telling all this, Krishna is appealing to Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, stand up and fight. In this chapter, Krishna described various wonderful things. All these slokas, one essence is very, very clear. In this age of Kali Yuga, we can perfect our life by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Let's do that together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So after hearing all this, Krishna said, get up and fight. Arjuna will have a question, isn't it? He will ask a question, and that's how chapter 5 will start, which we will cover in my next video. Hare Krishna.